This
October.
conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Gerald. I'll text you when we're done.
Okay, have fun.
Thank you. Appreciate your help. It's normally the third Tuesday.
Okay. All right, I will look for it. Thank you.
Okay, she just may not have gotten a chance to update the calendar yet.
Okay.
All right.
Carol's playing hooky today.
Yeah, she had something else she wanted to do. So that's fine. Hi, Miss Diane.
Hi, how are you?
Dianes.
What's that?
We'll have two Dianes, Diane Ryan and Diane Pasco.
A 1N and a 2N.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for being here.
No problem. It's my pleasure. So, did you get your handout, Diane's? Okay. And were you able to get the design?
I'm good.
You're good? Lady Ryan, did you get the
No.
design?
I didn't, but I'm sure I can.
You need to go to mysonet.com.
Yep.
Okay, you've done that before. You know how to do that?
And go to the library
Yes, ma'am.
and 200907133.
Yes, ma'am, please.
And I just want to send that to the cloud, right?
You can send it to the cloud. Do you know how to find your cloud files on your computer?
Or I can send it to, yes, I'd rather do that than send it the other way. So then I go to my library.
Yes, ma'am.
The hardest part is just remembering that number, but since it's on the piece of paper, that won't be hard. I know. Until you know it's in the library, it's kind of confusing. So I have learned a few things, but not, and also the date is helpful, but it doesn't list them in order.
Well,
Then I download it, right? I download it, correct?
well, it's if you send it to your Sonet cloud, and in your Sonet cloud file, there's a subfolder called library.
Right, that's where it is. And
Yeah.
then from there, I can open it in embroidery or in Stitch Editor or whatever. I don't need to download it to my computer.
No, it's available on your computer.
Okay. So I'll find it in Stitch Editor or in my embroidery.
Well, you will insert it into your embroidery thing. We'll do that step by step, okay?
So I've got it as far as I needed it, that I didn't do it before class because I was not on top of it.
Okay, as long as you have it in the library folder under My Sonet Cloud, you are
Yep.
good.
Cloud.mysonet.com.
The main folder name should just be My Sonet Cloud. I'm not sure how that works. If you don't know where to find that, you can go back to the internet and then tell it to send it to your computer, and it will open the software and have the design in the software for you.
Well, I have it, so I think we're good to go.
Okay,
Hopefully.
okay. And Carol Foss, we found yours this morning, so that's good. Lee has one, Diane Pasco has hers.
Yeah, mine's on my computer. It's just, I just put it in my folder.
Okay, so you know where it is and you can access it.
Yes.
Perfect. That is wonderful. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. The first 8 pages of Janie's wonderful instruction here has to do with obtaining that design, whether you are subscribed to the library because you have the Sew-ciety software, or whether you have subscribed to it otherwise, or if you are purchasing it. So our actual working part of the handout begins on page 9. All right. So if you can go over to page 9.
Judy, do you recall, I just remembered, Carol usually has us reset all our apps in the configure menu. Do we need to do that?
It's up to you.
Okay, I just did because I've been kind of messing around with it and there could be junk hanging out, right? Is
Okay.
that what it does?
So if you would like to reset back to factory specs, you go to configure and do that. Janie always has you do that in case, like you said, Diane, you have a few gremlins hanging around that might cause you a little grief. And if you are familiar with Janie's handouts, she, instead of just heading straight into the project and just doing the project, she will add a lot of little extra tidbits in that are learning experiences. So you learn way more about the module that we're talking about, in this case, Stitch Editor, than if you just did the project. So it's really nice. This project was not intended to come up with a beautiful, if you will, result. It's an exercise more so, rather than being a finished project, if that makes sense. So don't worry if yours doesn't come up to your standards. If you, like me, want everything just as good as you can get it, this is just like I said, an exercise, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to exercise a lot of the options in Stitch Editor today. So we're going to start off with just the regular My Sew-ciety embroidery module. So if you don't have that open, go ahead, excuse me, and open that. And on page 9, she does a little bit of an explanation about the difference between insert and open as to how you get a design into your embroidery. Insert loads a design file into an open program window without a file name, and each time you select insert, additional files can be added to that open window. And if you are planning to work on more than one design and eventually put them together, you want to use insert. If you're
For
using,
now, Judy, should we just open a blank project?
hang on.
Oh,
If you open a design, that is going to give you a brand new window with only one design in it. All right? Now,
Happen.
I'm sorry?
I've had that happen. You know, you think you're putting a design into something you already have, and it opens a new window. Now I know why.
Yeah. And then she talks a little bit about linking. And that is the linking feature is new in the SONET software. I can't talk today. This is going to be good. So if you have a design in the embroidery module and you need to edit it or add a background or change something about it, the program now allows us to link to the additional modules instead of having to put something on the clipboard and then go to the module and open it and paste that design from the clipboard into that module and then go back the same direction by using the clipboard as a transfer vehicle. And she makes a note here that the design that she suggested that we use is a ribbon embroidery design. Janie loves the ribbon embroidery feature. So she has used a ribbon embroidery design, and for the purpose of the exercise, it is not necessary that it be a ribbon embroidery design. All right. Okay, so on page 10, number 2, yes, Diane, we're going to select a blank canvas. Okay. And we want to pick, she says a universal group, hoop group. It doesn't matter. I've used the Epic group. And we want a 360 by 260 orientation natural hoop. All right. Okay, now we want to go to insert, which is up here on the top left. And Diane, Janie has been so very good to us to give us all the Mac instructions in here.
I saw that. I have my highlighter ready to highlight them.
Okay. All right, so click on the insert icon and work your way to wherever you have your design parked. And mine is in my Sonnet Cloud folder, the library subfolder, and there it is. Okay, so that's the design I want to open. It says open, but because we've come from the insert icon, it's going to insert it. All right. Now it's a bit large, but in the process of going through our exercise, we're going to resize it a bit. And if you are using the one you got from the library, you are going to see this little flower symbol over here telling us that it came from the library. If you had purchased the design, then you would have a different icon, which she shows on the end of number 6 on page 10. If we put our cursor over the selected, the film strip, and that shows that our design is selected, and we right click. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
My mouse.
7, now I'm on number 7. If we go over to the design panel and click on or hover over the color bar, it tells us that it is a ribbon design. That's just an extra little bit of information from Janie. All right. So now we're going to go over to the left side of the screen where in the film strip, where our design is selected, we're going to right click, and the second item in the pop-up box is Edit in Stitch Editor. That links, we click on that, and that links us into our Stitch Editor module and brings our design into that module for us. You'll notice up here on the top, there's a box called Design, or an area called Design Select, and you see the design up there in that little box for that. All right. Let's see. All right. We are now in my favorite part of the software programs, Stitch Editor, because you can do so much in this little module. Okay. So she's asked us, I'm on right above number 9 on page 11. She says we'll be resizing the embroidery. To check, let's check the stitch length used in a ribbon embroidery design. A ribbon embroidery design normally has very small stitches, because so it can really tack the ribbon down. And we want to make sure that we maintain that stitch length when we resize it. Remember, we said this was too big or bigger than we really wanted. So if we find out how long our stitch length is in a ribbon design, we can tell when we resize it, we can have the software maintain that stitch length for us. So if we go up to the View tab up here at the top and click on it, and then we go to the 2D view. See that? Oh, kind of over to the left in the next section under view mode. If we click on that, then it shows us, instead of just a solid line, it will show us our stitch points. Then if we use the zoom to rectangle down here at the bottom, we can zoom into a place so we can actually see stitches like this. And in order to measure those stitches, then we want to go up and get our Get Length tool, which is up to the left top of the screen. You click on that, and then your cursor now has this little thing that looks like a ruler, or more so to me looks like a comb. And you click on one point and then drag to the next one, and it tells you what your length is. So the length of the stitches here is about 1.5. I started a little soon and mine said 1.6, but 1.5 is the length of the stitches in an embroidery, a ribbon embroidery design, okay?
Judy, am I the only Mac person?
I'm sorry?
Am I the only Mac person?
Yes, dear, you are. I
Darn.
thought Leslie was going to be here because she texted me about the class yesterday, but she's not here. Maybe she's going to be a little tardy.
Okay,
Are
because
you
it is
doing okay?
definitely different. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll figure it out.
Okay. Well,
Like
for
when
now,
when I zoom in, I do not get the little stitchy looking things that you have.
did you change your view to a 2D view?
Yeah.
In number 9, the green part where she says in Mac 2D view with stitch points is in the view mode tools main toolbar.
Yeah, I don't see it in there. hang on, view. So not in view at the top, across the top
I don't know, the main toolbar,
is,
and she said there's a view mode tools. Just, hello, thank you. Like in the Windows, it also has a view mode tools.
okay, 2D, there it is. Sorry, it's just gonna take me a second because I don't, there we go. All right, I mean, I knew where the get length was because I've used that thing just to figure out how big a design is.
Okay, so the whole purpose of this was to show us that we can measure things in our design. And also, because we're going to resize this design, we need to maintain that stitch length for the ribbon embroidery design. So we're basically finished with this. We want to go back to, I'm on number 12, go back to 3D view. All right. And then we're going to zoom to fit, come down to the bottom, right next to your zoom slider bar, and click on that double-headed arrow for zoom to fit, and put it back so we can see the whole design. All right, now before we get out of, well, we're not going to get out of this for a long time. While we're still in view, over on the left, up towards the top under the File tab, you see the grid, and you can change the size of it. And she's asking us to change that size to 10 millimeters. That's where mine is because I've been playing with this exercise for a couple days. So change yours to 10 millimeters. And you will change yours in a minute here, Diane.
Okay, or so she says.
I'm sorry.
No, she said it would, we'll see.
It's right in the instructions. Okay.
No, I saw that part.
Okay, so now we're on page 12 in number 15. We're going to go back to, we're going to click on the File tab, and we're going to come down to where it says Preferences.
Whoop.
Okay. And the second half of the screen over here on the right-hand side, there's under resize, the second box from the bottom says single stitch length. Yours may say 2.0, it may say something else. Mine says 1.5, which is what we want to be in there. So if yours does not say 1.5, please change it to 1.5. All right. Because that was the length that our ribbon embroidery design had for stitch length, and that when we resize it, we want to make sure that our stitches end up the same size. All right. Any questions? Diane, you okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay, Diane Ryan.
I got it.
Okay, very good. All right, then we're going to, on the Windows, we're going to go back, use our go back arrow and come back to our Stitch Editor main screen.
I'm lost again. I don't know where the general tab is. I'm looking.
All right.
Home tab. The Home tab.
All right. So now, let's see. We want to be on the Home tab, number 16 on page 12. All right. And number 17, we want to click on select all visible, which is over to the left-hand side of your toolbar up here at the top. And that just puts a box around our entire design. Diane, you okay with me going on?
No, I'm still trying to change my grid to 10 millimeters.
Okay, it's
In-
not super critical, and
Okay.
she'll explain the reason for it as we go along here.
Okay,
So you can, if you haven't found it, we can go on.
okay, then let's just go on.
All right, now we want to make sure, you want to make sure that your resize is highlighted so that you have blue handles on your selection box. All right. So now we actually are going to resize this. And I got to get to where I can find my keyboard.
Size.
Got to hold the control key and the shift key down. And you're going to drag inward on one corner until it's a little bit smaller. And I just made it if between the 12 and the 14 marks on the side, those are millimeters. That's a good size for us. And let's see. If I move this over and I can see it, I'm now at about 166 wide and 263 high. Somewhere in that range is fine. Somewhere close to that. All right. So, and if we wanted to, we could go back to the view tab and change it to the 2D view again and zoom in and measure our stitches again with the get length tool and find out that when we resized it, it maintained the 1.5 stitch length. All right. Hi, Liz. Okay. And if you want to do that, you can do that to check out to make sure that it stayed at the 1.5 stitch length that we need for our ribbon embroidery designs.
Hey, Judy, I still have the little ruler showing, so it's not letting me
Need to
resize
right
anything.
click to release it.
Right click? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Judy, my handles don't turn blue.
They don't. Is
No.
your resize,
Yeah, it's the one that's like a zigzag with a little, oh. She has it a zigzag with like a little calculator. Mine is, where is resize? Because that one is select stitches. The little zigzag, oh, there's resize. Okay,
you
Sorry.
found it?
yeah.
Okay, doke.
Okay, so how do you undo something?
Your backward arrow up here at top.
Backward.
Okay, wait. Select all
I don't
visible.
know what you have on your screen. I'm so sorry.
No. I'm definitely in the special needs category today. Because
No, it's not in there. Control Z. You don't have a control key,
yeah, I do.
do you? Well,
Yeah. So under select, I have box select, freehand select, print select, point select, select stitches, select color, select all visible. I want select all visible, right? What's happened?
Yes. Yes.
But what's happened is the other ones won't, like box select won't go away when I hit select all visible.
Do you have a little arrow right beside select all visible that you can drop down where it says select all visible and select none?
No.
No?
But when I clicked the correct resize thing, I did get blue handles. So that's good.
Okay.
Like I don't have the numbers across the top and down the side.
Okay. Well, just make it a little bit littler. That's okay.
That's what we needed to do. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Judy,
Yes.
Judy, mine is not letting me make it smaller.
It's
I
not.
have selected all. I've cursored down to select all visible. But then it like turns itself off when I hit resize.
Are your handles blue on resize?
No, they're white. Okay, let me select
Then
all
resize
visible.
is not on. White means you're scaling. Resize is not on if they're not blue.
Okay, I've selected all visible and the little arrow's on, so I selected it again, but it stays white.
Where's your resize? Do you not have a resize?
I have a resize, but it's not on yet because I can't get the,
Well, click
I
on the
can't,
resize, should turn your handles blue.
okay, resize is on and it's turned blue.
All right, then if you hold the Control and Shift key down at the same time
Okay,
and select one of those corner handles, you should get a double-headed arrow like on mine here. And you should be able to drag it inward to resize it.
nope, not moving.
What size is your design?
It's like 16, 15.
15.
Here, I'll turn and show you what I got.
Are you in inches?
No, I don't think so. No, I was in millimeters.
All right, I can't really see that because it's a little tiny.
Neat.
If I could,
Well, I'll just try and figure it out and continue on.
okay, wherever I was. Okay, okay, we talked about checking the stitch length, so that's on page 13. And now we are ready to be on number 22 on page 13. Okay. So we want to zoom in using our zoom to rectangle tool down on the bottom here, which is the square and the little magnifying glass. Click on that, and then we can zoom in on just the little blossom part of our screen. All right. Then we want to engage freehand select by clicking on it over here on the toolbar. And we want to draw and drag a circle around our biggest flower here. All right. With me here? Diane Ryan?
Did you see the confused look on my face? So when I I clicked on freehand select,
All right.
and then I clicked in the design, and all it does is move the box around. My handles are still blue. I need to get rid of that. Never mind. No, it's still not. It's just giving me the 4 X's, you know, the cross ones.
Can you right click and clear your tools? And then go back and if you just click somewhere on in your hoop area that's not inside the design, it should take away all the boxes. Just a look.
There you go.
Okay, now go back and reselect freehand select.
Yep, I got a circle around them.
Perfect.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to copy that. We're going to use the copy tool up in the left-hand corner of our toolbar. It's going to put it on our clipboard down here in the right-hand corner. And then under the paste option here, there's a little drop-down arrow. And when you click on that, you get 3 options. We want to use the center one, paste as design. When we do that, over to the right-hand side in the toolbar in that design select area, it has added a second design in that box. All right. So it normally we copy, we paste, and it goes right on top of our original design and becomes a part of our original design. When we've pasted as a design, it keeps it as a separate design. All right. It's just a really nice feature that it will let us make extra parts, if you will, to our design. Now we want to go back and cursor over in that box showing the 2 designs. We want to go back and cursor over the first design, the whole thing, and click on it, and then click in the hoop area and clear that selection box. All right, and what we want to do is we want to pick out a few more things, like maybe this little flower here, draw a circle around it, copy it, drop down the options under paste, and paste it as a design. So now we have 3 designs in our design select box at top. Diane and Ryan, you okay? Perfect. All right, now we want to pick out a couple more little pieces. So we need to go back to our whole design, click on that whole design, and pick out something else to duplicate. And I'm going to pick the little flower over here on the left. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to drop down my paste options and say paste as design. And now I have 4 different designs in my design select box. And we're going to do that one more time. So we're going to select the whole design up here in our design select box, the first one on the left. And then I'm going to, it's hard to tell the blossoms from the leaves, but I'm going to consider this a leaf, this little bitty one down here. And I'm going to copy him and paste him as a design. Now, when I do that, that box only holds 4 designs. So he goes into like the second page of the box. And we can go back and forth to see the different designs in that box with these 2 arrows that are on the left side of that box. So if I click on the top arrow, then I see my first 4 designs. If I click on the bottom arrow, then I see my 5th design. All right, so you can move your way around through the designs that you have for by using those arrows in that box next to that box. Any questions on that so far? All right, good. Let's see. All righty. Okay, now we're all the way over to page 15. And under the heading, adding more design objects. We're finished editing our ribbon embroidery and the new ribbon elements for now. So let's go back into the embroidery module and find another design or some more designs to create our final design. So in order to go back to the regular embroidery module, we can either just close out Stitch Editor by clicking the X up in the right-hand corner, or on the embroidery module screen, we could click the word Finish. All right, I normally just click the arrow over in the right-hand side. And now you see in your film strip in the embroidery screen, you have the original design, and then you have those 4 pieces that we copied and pasted as designs. So we have 5 different designs. Now these ones that we copied and pasted are still sitting right where they were originally, but they're on top of the original design, but we can get to them. All right. And each one of them has that My Sewnet library in designation because we've taken them from a My Sewnet library design. Okay. So we are on page 16, part 3. We're going to add another embroidery. So we're going to go back to our insert icon up here on the very top left corner. We're going to click on it. And this time we're going to go into our My Sewnet software files, maybe. Oh, there we go. And we are going to go to the samples folder. In the samples folder, we are going to go to the Stitch Editor folder. And in the Stitch Editor folder, we are going to open up the Stitch folder. And we are going to pick the file that says Chaffinches, CHAFFINCHES, VP4. It's the 2 little birds on branches with flowers on them. And we are going to insert that by clicking on Open down at the bottom of the screen. And there it is. Okay. And in the film strip, that is the design that is selected. So we want to edit that. So with it selected, we will right click on it in the film strip, and we will say Stitch Edit in Stitch Editor. I'm sorry. We will go back to Stitch Editor, and now we will be working on our birds and flowers.
I'm lost, Judy. I can't find the bird.
Can you find your My Sewnet
Cloud?
files on your computer? If you want to like when you make a design, do you put it in My Sewnet, My Designs folder?
I had samples. I mean, I do see,
Can you find the samples?
hang on, it's in the B's. I guess it's, wait, let me try this. No.
Okay, have you read her little tips here about select Finder, and in the Finder menu bar, select Preferences, select Sidebar, check the Home folder.
Yeah, I'll have to. In Mac. Home. Let me see here. No, there's no samples there. I thought I had them. I don't want to hold everybody up. Just go ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry. All I can tell you is what she has written down here. It should be pretty much the same path that we use in Windows. It's just
Right.
you're doing it in Finder. Okay, so now we have our birds and our flowers, and we are in Stitch Editor. I'm on number 3 on page 16. In the design panel, the area that shows you all of your colors, we want to uncheck boxes in front of colors 1 through 6. And as we're doing that, you're seeing all of the leaves and the flowers and most of the branches disappearing from the screen. And if you want to be able to see where they were, you can come down to the bottom toolbar and click on the little ghost down here, the ghost mode. And I don't know whether you can see these very well or not because they are very light yellow on my screen. And I don't know whether that shows up, but that shows you what the stitches that are still in the design, but right now are not visible because we have unchecked those boxes in front of the color bars. So what we want to do now is number 4 on page 16. We want to select all visible, which is our 2 little birdies. And then on the top of page 17, we're going to select delete. So we have no more birds. All we have, if we click on draw all stitches down by our little ghost, all we have left are some flowers, some stems, and some leaves. They're a little bit disconnected, but we're going to fix that. Okay, again, we are going to go to the View tab, and we are going to select the 2D view. All right, then we're going to zoom into the area where our branch is disconnected. And we are going to, let's see, and you can see that there was a space where part of the bird was, and there are stitches that connect those pieces of the stems to the remaining parts of the stem. And what we want to do is to move those so that they, in essence, connect. And so we're going to go back to 3D view, and we're going to be bouncing back and forth. So if you get lost, please stop me and we'll get you back where you belong. We're going to go back to 3D view. Then we're going to go back to home. and freehand select again. We're going to draw a circle around our disconnected parts, and we're going to move them right up so they're right next to or just barely overlapping the other part so they look connected. Now there's a little not so good looking part right here, but we'll get this all connected and then we'll work on that. Now I want to zoom out a little so I can see that whole bottom stem. And I want to freehand select it and move it up until it touches that other part, okay? So now they look pretty connected, but it's kind of ragged right around where they are connected. So on page 18, we are going to work on putting them together. I like to go back to, I want to go back to the view and the 2D parts, and I want to zoom in on the place that I'm going to work on. All right. And I can see my individual stitches. Now, Janie tells you to go back to the Home tab, because if you do that, you have an option to select stitches here. If you stay in the View tab, down at the bottom, very bottom bar, there are some little icons there, and the fourth one from the end is Select Stitches also, so you don't really have to go back to the Home tab to maneuver your stitches around. You can select them individually by activating that icon. And when you hover over a stitch point, it will put a little box around it. And what did I do? Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me zoom in a little bit more here. Come on. Be nice to me. Okay. All right, so maybe that'll help. Okay, so once I've got this little box around a stitch, I can move the stitch. I can hit my delete key and remove the stitch. So we can now play with our stitches, and instead of having it look like it grew really funny, we can move those stitches so that it makes a nice smooth transition between those two parts that we put together. Make sense? Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just, like I said, an exercise, and shows you that you can, if something doesn't come out quite right, you can fix it. So if I go back to a 3D view, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go back to 2D, and then I'm going to find where that other place is that was really messed up. And with my Select Stitches icon still on, I'm going to work on the stitch points here, and I'm going to delete a bunch of those because they were really hanging out. And so you can maneuver them around so they're a little bit more to your liking. And if you want to check what it looks like, then you can always go back to the 3D part and kind of check it out that way. I give you a couple minutes to play with it while I'm playing. Oh, I must have right-clicked or double-clicked. If you right-click, your little tool is gonna deactivate, so. Well, that's not perfect, but it's better than it was for sure. So now my branches kind of hooked back up together. All right. Everybody ready to go on? Diane Ryan, how are you?
I'm completely lost. So you know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back and work on just the first part of the exercise and not worry about this part of the exercise because it's making no sense. So my goal was to learn how to change, take part of a design and get rid of the other part of the design. So I think what I may do is just go back and focus on that and let you guys finish without me.
Well, I'm sorry. I'd be
Oh,
glad
it's
to
not your fault. It's not
help
your
you.
fault.
Anyway.
Maybe I don't understand my Mac as well. I mean, I did follow all her directions, but I still couldn't find that sample folder in there. So maybe I never downloaded the sample folder. So I need to figure that out.
Okay.
But it's not your fault for sure.
Okay. If you do download the samples,
Uh-huh.
they come in as a zip file, and you have to unzip them and then place them into the sample folders under my Sewnet folder on your computer.
Okay.
They
will.
don't download like the modules of the software. They
Right. You
download
have
a file.
to download them and unzip them. I get that. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, you ladies all have a nice weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
And if you want to come back in while we're still going, please do. Okay. So now we are on page 19 and number 18. We need to be in the Home tab, and we want to use our freehand select again. And this time we're going to select these little flowers that are floating around up here at top. And we're going to bring them down and connect them to this little stub of the stem that is down here. So you can mirror them using these arrows on the side. You can rotate them using your rotate handle and then drag them so they come right into maybe. And you can get them close, but then you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard to fine tune the placement of them. Maybe. Why is it? I'm hitting the wrong ones. Okay. So now I have my flowers connected with the stem. All right. No problem. Okay, so now it's looking pretty good, except we've got these little orphans down here. And we have a partial leaf right in here. So we need to work on those. And the other thing is that these stems are made up of satin stitches, and some of them are pretty big. So we have a few things that we need to take care of. First thing, let's get rid of, I'm on page 20, number 22. Says check your ghost mode, make sure it's on. And we are going to, whoops, I think I skipped one here. On 21 on page 19, it says to use the draw next color block down here at the bottom of your screen to show just the stems, okay? And then, that doesn't make sense to me. Draw next color block, so only the green leaves. Oh, okay. We have to click it until we have just the leaves. So your screen should look like this, and the only check mark you should have over here in the design panel is on number 3. All right? Sorry for the confusion. All right, now with the ghost mode on, all right, we want to zoom in so we see most of the leaves. And now this, can you see my cursor here, where this bar down below the screen and above the toolbar? There's just that bright green of the leaves is showing, and it's called a visible stitches slider. And there's like a little arrow at the left and one at the right, and they're like a very pale green for go and a very pale red for stop. If we move those sliders, it will, if I move the go in, I'm taking away the beginning of the green stitches. And what I want to do is to take away enough stitches until I get to that partial leaf. And then I want to get rid of the rest, the other green stitches. So I back up my slider and I remove all of the other ones until I just have that partial leaf highlighted. Now, down below that stitch slider, there are 2 boxes with numbers in them. The box on the left is the stitch number where your visible stitches start. The box on the right is the stitch number of the last of your visible stitches. So if we change those numbers, we can see more or fewer stitches. So if I go to the right-hand box and I click the down arrow, you can see on my screen that I'm taking out those stitches on that partial leaf on the right, because I couldn't get the slider bar to be as exact as I wanted it to be. So this is actually taking out 1 stitch at a time. Okay, so now all I see are the stitches for that partial leaf. I can go up and choose the select all visible, because that is all that is visible right now, that partial leaf. It draws a box around it and includes a jump stitch from that other leaf. Then I can delete that and it's gone. Then, okay, if I had some stray stitches and that stitch appears to be in that other leaf, if I really wanted to delete that, I could go up to select stitches up at the top, or the select stitch icon which if you select that function up at the top, it also highlights the function down in the toolbar at the very bottom. You could go in and you could pick out stitches there and delete those if you needed to, and I don't think I need to. If you had a few extra stitches, go right ahead and delete those extra ones. And once you finish that, then go back and draw all stitches. So now we've got our stem connected. We've gotten rid of our partial leaf. And we want to let me check something here for 1 second here. Okay, we want to know how, where these, in what part of the green leaves, where this is going, these orphan leaves are going to stitch. Because what we're going to do is we're going to move them up so they connect with this one, but we want them to stitch before that one does, so it covers up that little connection point. Does that make sense? All right, so to find out the sequence that they're going to stitch in, we're going to use the design player. So we click on design player and we can watch it stitch out like paint drying. We can make it go fast, or we can use this slider bar. So the first thing that stitches out is the stems, then the shadows, and then it's going into the green leaves. And it's stitched that this leaf right here, which you can't see my finger, so it's stitched this leaf right here, and then it will stitch all the rest of it, and then it's going to stitch the orphan leaves. So if we just move those so they connected with this leaf, that end of that stem would be visible when we stitched it out. So we need to do something to fix that. In order to fix that, then we are going to go to page 21, and on number 35, we are going to use our freehand select again and circle our leaves. And this time we are going to cut them out of the design. All right, we're just going to do cut, and they end up on our clipboard. Okay, and then we're going to go back to our paste, and we're going to use our drop down arrow and our friend paste as design. It's going to end up as a second design up here in the design select box. But the thing, designs are going to stitch out in the sequence they are in this design select box. But you have the option of rearranging them. All right. So in the let's see. Okay. We're going to do select all visible, and then we're going to put this where we want it to be. So if it will help to zoom in, please do that. And then take your leaves and rotate them, mirror them, or whatever you want to do to make them fit nicely into your design. And I always move them too far and get them tucked up into something else. Okay. So once you have them into place, then in the design select window, there are 3 icons over to the right-hand side of it. The top one is grayed out, which says move forward. The middle one says move backwards. So we want these leaves, these little orphan guys, to stitch before the rest of the leaves, because we want this part here tucked under this leaf that right now is ghosted out. So we're going to move our little orphan guys backwards. So now they would stitch before the rest of the leaves. In fact, right now they would stitch before the whole design. So if we select design number 2, and we click on the third icon on the right hand side, it says combine with previous. So it's going to merge that, the rest of the design, with those little orphan leaves, but it's going to maintain the sequence that we had when we had them separated. If you look over at your design panel, now you see these are the very top color, and the rest of the leaves are now color 4. All right, but we can fix that. This is why I love design or stitch editor. So if I, on number 44, on page 22, if I click on that color bar, then I come down to the bottom, right underneath that color select box. The second icon will let me move that color down. So I'm going to move it. I'm going to click that down arrow twice. And now that is sitting right on top of color number 4, which is the rest of the leaves. But I really would like it to, those two to be together. So in order to do that, if I select number 4, and again I come down to the bottom of the box in my color select, the icon on the very right says merge into previous color. And if you're going to merge colors, to keep them in the same sequence that we have here, where the orphan leaves stitch out first and then the rest of the leaves, we want to merge from the bottom to the top. So that's why number 4 is selected, and we're going to merge it behind number 3, but it will only now be one color stop. Okay. Okay, so now we can go back to Design Player, and we can watch it stitch out again. And this time, those little orphan guys are stitching first in the leaves, and then the rest of the leaves stitch after those, and it covers up that connection point right there. All right. Okay. Janie must have hurt her head when she wrote all this. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do to fix this up is that we want to be on step number 48. So we're going to use our draw next color block, and that is going to select our stems. All right. These are really too wide for what we would like, so we are going to go to the Modify tab, which is next to the Home tab up here at the very top on the left. And in the first section, we're going to select the breakup stitches icon. All right. Now it tells us that our stitches are now 8 millimeters long. And what we really want them to be a maximum of 2.5. So I'm going to type in 2.5, which will overlay the 8. And when I click on OK, that takes effect in our stem. And if you zoom in, you can see instead of just a straight satin stitch across this whole width, you have now 2 or 3 or more satin stitches for your stem. And not only does that make the stitches more safe, but it also gives a better look to your stems. It gives them some texture. Okay. Any questions about that or concerns? Okay. So just for fun, we've got we can go back to draw all stitches and see our whole design. But just for fun, let's find out a few more features that we can use in Stitch Editor, which are kind of fun to play with and can change the whole look of our design. So let's go back to the Home tab and let's zoom in on these bottom leaves down here so we can see them very nicely. All right. In your directions on page 23, number 51, it says draw next color block to isolate color number 4. That really should be color number 3, because we combined number 3 and number 4, so now it has become color 3. So if you want to cross out that 4 and make that a 3, that would be good, please. Once we've done that and we're just seeing the leaves and the rest of it's ghosted, and you can really see the effect of breaking up those stitches on those ghosted stitches on your screen now. We want to select the Object tab in our upper toolbar. And when you do that, you see nothing. I mean, all the tools are grayed out, because the way that works, when you get into the hoop area, your cursor now becomes this little 6-sided ring with circles on it. And as you hover over a piece of your design, it will show you your points that make up that design. And if you click on it, then that is selected. This little orange thing that is in there is a rotation handle. And what happens is if you grab the small part of that and turn it, then it changes the angle of your fill, which is kind of cool. And you can tell, because this is a 3D view, if the stitches, once you've turned it, look dull, that's probably not what you want. But if they're shiny, then they're catching the light and will give you a much prettier look to your design, unless you want to have them look dull in contrast to another section that looks shiny because of the angle of the threads and the way the light catches them. The other thing you can do once you have selected an object is to right-click on it, and it gives you this huge drop-down box, which the first item in it is to edit pattern fill. Or there's umpteen ways that you can change your fill. You know, if you're digitizing and you select a pattern fill, besides the pattern fills, you have things like motif fill and shape fill and radial fill and quilt stipple and contour and all that. And this would convert our current pattern fill to one of those other kind of fills. But if we click on pattern fill, it opens our pattern fill box, our dialog box. And if right now it's on pattern number 3. If we click this drop down arrow, then we can get into all of the different pattern fills that are available to us if we were in digitizing. So scroll down through there and pick something that you think would look good in there and then say, okay. So now there's a different pattern fill in there. And again, if I use the rotation handle, I can change the direction or the angle of that pattern fill so that I like the look of it. And I really like them so they're kind of shiny. So I'm going to go back to an angle that I like. Is this making sense? Okay. Now, if I want to change another one, I can hover over it and click on it, right click on it, and change it to a different pattern fill or the same pattern fill that I used before. And I can makes the leaves a whole lot more interesting. There were some of them, okay, this one, and it's, as you hover over the various parts of the leaves, if you come across one that doesn't completely fill the leaf, or the leaf, it's the whole section isn't selected, like this little part up here, the satin one, it only selected half of it. But if I click on that and I want to change the whole thing, I can move my points and redefine that shape. And then edit that. Now this was a satin column, so instead of saying edit pattern fill, it says edit satin column. And so I can convert that, say, to a feathered satin, which ought to be interesting because now it's all spiky looking because I chose feathered satin. All right. Okay. And I think I got so excited about changing those things that we're gonna go back to step number 53 on page 23, and we're gonna go back down to this part of the leaf and select it. A lot of times when you have pattern fill, you will have what they call underlay stitches. Those are those spacey stitches that it fills in the background of a pattern fill before it actually puts the pattern fill in. Well, sometimes those end up being too many stitches. So we have a tool up here under Modify Object that says Remove Underlying Stitches. And before we click on that, notice how many stitches you have over here in the Design Panel information part. I have 22,613. You may have a different number. But if I go click on remove underlying stitches, I now have 22,326. So I've lost almost 300 stitches in that particular area because I removed the underlying stitches. Okay. If you're doing a very dense pattern fill and you don't want the bulk of that underlying stitches, then you can use that. Or if you were doing, you had a ready-made design and you wanted to put it on a lightweight fabric, you would want to decrease the amount of stitches that you had in there. And that would be one way to do it. All right. The other way to do it would be to go to your properties with a section highlighted, and in your box that comes up in the underlay portion, you have none, low, medium, and high, and that's those underlying stitches that you could change it here, as well as removing underlying stitches. All right.
So you just have to know when to remove and about how many to remove, or is it America's Best Guess, or?
Well, it's a lot of it is experience. When you go to Design Player and you watch the stitch out, you can see it putting the underlay in there. And I want to get to that same leaf that we were playing with, or that I was. See, now what you're seeing here are your underlay stitches.
Okay.
Right now it's not got a whole lot. So you can kind of judge on that. And of course, you're going to stitch out a sample stitch out before you put it on whatever is good, right?
Of course.
Of course. So also, when I did the Design Player, you notice that I have acquired an extra stitch or so in here that I really don't want. Okay. And it's not showing up here. And right now, I know I'm bouncing around. If those kind of stitches show up and you are still in the middle of enhancing parts of your design by changing fills or whatever you're doing, don't bother about them until you are all finished and have your design like you want it, except for those stitches. And then we can deal with it by using the delete stitch icons. So if I wanted to get rid of my funky stitch, I would go into my view menu and go to my 2D view. And then I can again move my sliders so I can see my funky stitches. Select the stitch icon, click on my stitch, and delete that, and now that funky stitch is gone. So when I would stitch it out, it's not there. All right. So the other things that we want to do probably to make our stitch or our design, I'm going to draw all stitches and then zoom out go back to 3D view, and I am going to the Modify tab now. Another tool that can help clean up our design because we've messed around with the stitches and so forth is this Stitch Optimizer under the Modify tab. If I click on that, it automatically optimizes my stitches, and it has on my copy of it, it has removed 1,488 stitches, which it decided were unnecessary. And those come from moving stitches around, changing the pattern fill. Sometimes you end up with little teeny tiny stitches that aren't worth anything, so it will delete those and so forth. The other thing that as an embroiderer you will appreciate is that you can have it add trim commands for you. So you don't have to trim your jump stitches as you go along. So in that same section of your toolbar up here under trim commands, if you drop, there's a little arrow beside it. So click on that and you will drop down, and it says you can either automatically add trims or you can remove all trims. In our case, we want to add trims. So we click on that, and it has added, in my design, 12 trim commands have been added. That's 12 jump stitches I don't have to trim. Okay. So I think that's all we're going to do with this part. We've kind of turned it inside out and upside down. Are there any questions before we continue? Okay. So now we're still in Stitch Editor, but we want to go back. We want to link back to the main embroidery module. So we can just click on the close arrow or X up at the right hand corner, and voila, here is our design right back with our ribbon design that we worked on earlier. Now, if we were actually doing this as a ribbon design, we would want our embroidered design to stitch out first, because we wouldn't want to be embroidering over top of our ribbons. So with our flowers selected in our film strip, if we come down to the bottom, there are 5 icons down here at the bottom of the film strip. The first one says stitch first. So with my flowers selected and I clicking on that stitch first, it moves it to the top. So now my flowers will stitch out first. Then the next thing I want to stitch is my original ribbon design. All these black designs that you see, or dark brown designs that you see right now. But we still have these 4 things that we copied and pasted as separate designs. So if we select those one by one, they will be boxed, and we can move them around on our design where we would like them to be. So select them one by one, and you might want to actually move your flower design a little bit. I wanted to move mine down a little bit, and then I want to go back, and because I want to put some of those ones that I cut and pasted right on top of my embroidered flowers. So as I select these little ones and move them, and turn them to fit, I can put a ribbon design right on top of an embroidered design. Okay. All right. Let's see. So I think that gets us back to page 27. And at this point, we can save this file as a VP4 file, a working file that we could go back and adjust things in very easily. So if you want to save your masterpiece as a VP4 file, please, I'm on page 27 up at the top, number 68. She suggests that we save it as beribboned flowers.
Judy,
Yes, we.
I want to thank you. I've got to run. Got to run an errand for my son.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
I hope this was useful to you.
Yes, I was able to follow along just fine.
Wonderful. Janie does wonderful directions.
Yes, she does.
Yes, she does. Okay, so
All
thank
right.
you so much for being here, Lee. Have a good weekend.
You too, and you take care, and we'll see you next month or whenever I can figure out your design positioning class.
Okay, well, I forget what the class is next week, but we will have a workbook class next week for the EPIC too.
All right, well, thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, Lee. Okay, if you want to now to export it, we need to be careful of our export options. And Janie has a nice section here about a tip that you want to make sure that the exporting options do not mess with your design. So basically, you want to turn most of them or all of them off. So on page 28 at the very top, we want to open configure, and to get to configure, we can click on the file and menu, and I thought it was in there. Yes, it is. In the green bar, the third one from the bottom is configure. So that will open our configure module for us, and we will go to the export tab. And yours, if you reset all of your options at the beginning of this session, you will have all 4 of these selected. And she tells us that when we are unselecting them or deselecting them, however you want to say it, that you should deselect remove overlap first. Because if you deselect one of the others first, then you cannot deselect remove overlap. So you should deselect all of those options and then say OK. Now we can go back to our file menu and we can say export, and none of those options for optimizing are selected, which is what we want. We don't want it to change any stitch lengths. We don't want it to mess with the colors or any of that. We built that design just like we wanted it. So we don't want it to mess with it. And you will notice that because our design includes a design from the library, the encrypted VP3 designs. That's how it will save it. It will become an encrypted design. And as long as we have a subscription to the library, we can use that design. Once our subscription lapses, for whatever reason, we no longer will be able to use that design. All right, so now you can go ahead and export that wherever you want it to be, and you can give it that name, that the beribboned flower name, and you can stitch it out. Or if you have your machine on and you're ready to stitch it right out, you can go ahead and send it to your machine. It's up to you how you want to, how much you like your design, and if you want to stitch it out. Janie gave us a picture of hers that she stitched out. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I don't have that attachment, so I won't be doing anything with it.
It would just stitch little tiny straight stitches.
Itty bitties.
The
Okay.
1.5 millimeter, because that's what we told it, that's what we wanted.
Well, this was very helpful because I'm still working on that Christmas quilt we started a while back. And
Which one is that?
the one that had the Be a Toy font, and all those little
Oh,
letters
okay.
need to have stitch adjustments made to them.
Well, you know, I'm not right ready, but I'm close to being ready to put sandwich mine and quilt it. And I want to use the feature that I can hoop a block. I did like a quilt block wizard quilting design around each one of them. And I want to be able to use the camera, taking the picture of the quilt in the hoop and sending it to the machine, and using that to position my design for quilting.
Well, that will be exciting.
Yeah. We'll see how well I did with my quilting designs, because that was, you know, being able to position them correctly and fairly easily has always been a stumbling block. So.
Well, there you go. I'll be anxious to see it.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much, Judy. I appreciate you and all your time you put in.
Well, thank you. It was a great lesson.
I'm going to have to go back and do it again.
Like I said, I went through it a few times this week.
Well, that's what I do with all these classes. Usually I try to start them ahead of time, but today I didn't get the chance to do that, except to get the embroidery designs and stuff on the machine and stuff. So
Well,
I'm running behind.
Well, no, you were fine, because normally you would not get the instructions until the day of class, because Carol was not going to be available. She sent them out early.
Well, it usually takes me 5 or 6 times to get this all done. So we'll work on it. I'm a work in progress.
All right. Thank you, Diane, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Judy. Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right. Carol Foss, Peggy Wolf, any questions, comments?
I'm pretty lost.
Where are you, dear?
I don't want to hold anybody else up, so I'll just do it again.
You're fine.
I got confused way back on page 16.
Okay, let's see if we can unconfuse you.
I couldn't seem to get those doggone birds off the design.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete my birds. Okay. Then I'm going to put them back in. And let's see, where are we? Here we are. Okay, now they're selected and I am going to right click. Are you in Stitch Editor or are you still in embroidery?
I'm in embroidery.
All right, so see how I have them highlighted in my film strip?
Yep.
Right click, and the second option is Edit in Stitch Editor.
Right.
Okay, so now it copies them over and opens up the Stitch Editor. Okay.
Right.
Now, the birds are colors 7 through 13.
Right. And I deleted 1 through 6, but they never went away.
Okay, so I'm going to unclick 1 through 6 so I am protecting my flowers and leaves and stems. All right. So the only thing I see are my birds.
Correct.
That's what you have, right?
Yes.
Then I'm going to go up to select all visible up in the toolbar
Okay.
and click on that, and it puts a box around my birds.
Right.
And then I'm going to go over to the delete icon
Ah,
and click it, and it's bye bye birdie.
right. Ah,
Okay. So then now if I go down to my draw all stitches,
okay, hold on.
okay. You find it down at the bottom right hand, right next to the clipboard.
Yes.
Okay, and you click on that,
Yep.
and then you see the stems, the leaves, and the flowers.
Right.
Okay,
I don't know how I missed that. I'm sorry.
that's all right. You got it now. That's what
Yep.
counts. Okay, what else do you want to continue?
Well, I followed along, so maybe I'll just do the lesson and see how I do now. I tried like 3 or 4 times to get rid of the birds. I
Darn,
guess I wasn't looking in the right place for the delete.
you could have also used your delete key.
Oh, okay.
All right. So they must have been related to those ravens. Any other questions? Anything else I can help you with, Carol or Peggy? I don't think Peggy can talk to me. I think she's just on a computer without talking capabilities.
I got confused when she talked about the ghost thing there.
Where are you? What page are you on,
I'm
sweetie?
still on page 16. When it
Okay.
says remove the birds, I didn't see where she said hit delete.
Let's see. Click open, select all visible on top of page 17, number 5.
Number 5. Ah, okay.
All
I
right.
guess I didn't go far enough, that far. I was looking I was still looking on page 16 for it.
Okay.
And then draw all stitches. Okay.
Okay, and then once you draw all stitches, your screen should look like mine
Yeah, it
with all
does.
the disconnected parts and the partial leaf and so forth.
That's correct.
Okay,
All right. Well, thank you very much.
well, I'm sorry you got waylaid.
That's okay. You know, I kept working at it, but it just wasn't.
Those darn birds wouldn't go away.
Those darn birds. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, you know where to find me
I do.
if you got more questions.
I will. And thank you. Thank you for putting in the time and presenting this lesson. It was very good.
It's an excellent lesson, and well, I'm partial to stitch editor anyhow, so.
Well, I can see where it really helps you be very specific in what it is you're designing so that, you know, your design really comes out nice.
Well, it's, you know, it's so great because just like the flowers and the birds, you can tell the birds to go away and use the flower design and it looks great.
Yeah, no, it does. That's very good. All righty. Well, signing off. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Peg, I'm gonna shut it down. So thank you for being here.